Hey, yo, hey, it's Mrs. Yo again. Hope everyone's doing well today. Okay, today we're back for our character response lesson 2. So just a review from yesterday. Yesterday we learned all about the problem and solution. And we learned that when you have a problem, it's a challenge and that you have to find a solution in order to solve the problem. So today we're going to start learning about character response. Character response is what the character does because of an event that happens in a story. A challenge is something that causes problems for the character. So, in our example yesterday, remember she wanted to play outside, but the leaves were wet. So her challenge was the leaves were wet and she couldn't play outside. The response is what the action of the character does because of it. So it can be what the character says, what the character thinks, what the character feels, or what the character actually does. So in our previous example from yesterday, she decided to rake the leaves and then she was able to play outside. So her action was raking the leaves. That was her response. So here's another example. Let me see if I can hide this little guy. All right, there we go. So here's another example. It is so hot that no one wants to go outside. I would say that's a problem or a challenge. The solution is that Julie decides to jump in the ice cold pool. So her response, what her action is, what she does is she goes outside and jumps in an ice cold pool. Sounds like what I would do. Whoops. Okay, so here's another one that we have. Let me see if I can scoot myself out of the way. I don't know if I can make myself smaller. Let me scoot myself over here. Okay. All right, here's another anchor chart that I liked. Character response is what a character does because of the events that happen in the story. A challenge is something that causes problems for the character. So this little girl here is starting to rain. I would say that's causing some problems for her, right? She's going to get wet. We learned that from cause and effect. The response is what the character does, feels, thinks, or says. I liked this one because it included all those different things. What the character does, what the character feels, what the character thinks, and what the character says. So what does she do? How does the character respond? She goes and gets her umbrella and her rain boots and her rain jacket that we see. So now she's no longer getting wet. Okay, so today we're going to look at a couple of different stories, and we are going to come up with what the character does, thinks, says, and feels about each of the different stories. So you're going to see me go back and forth from present to back to a smaller version because I can't type when it's in present, but I wanted you to be able to see it as a bigger story. So that's why I'm in present now. Okay, story 1. Tommy loved going to the cafeteria with his friends. Looking at his lunchbox was one of his favorite things to do. His mom always packed him surprises. Today was different. He looked at his lunchbox and saw a turkey sandwich and an apple. He knew this was healthy, but he just didn't want it. Sometimes we don't want healthy things. We want junky things, right? He wanted the chicken nuggets from the lunch line. When his friend Seth walked into the cafeteria, Tommy asked him if he wanted to trade lunches, and Seth said sure. All right, let me escape. Let's see, hold on one second. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to fill in a graphic organizer about what the characters do, think, feel, and say. So let's think back to the story. What did the character do? Whoops. All right, what did the character do? Well, he looked in his lunchbox, and when he looked in there, he found that he had an apple, and I believe it was a turkey sandwich. Is that right? Let's see. Yes, he looked and he had a turkey sandwich and an apple. So we're going to say he looked in his, oops, and found a turkey sandwich. I cannot type today. And apple. What else did he do? Yeah, he traded his lunch with his friend. So he traded lunches with, I believe his name is Seth. Okay? So, what was the character thinking in the story? Never really said out loud what his thoughts were, but look here. He knew this was healthy, but he just didn't want it. Isn't that a thought? When you know something's healthy and you just don't want it, you're thinking that. So he thought that oops, I forgot to put my tea. Let's fix that. He thought that the food was healthy, but he just didn't. Whew. What's it? Boy, I'm having trouble typing. All right, now how did he feel? Well, part of what we put in think is part of what he felt. He didn't want the what? The healthy lunch. What did he want instead? He wanted chicken nuggets. Kind of don't blame him, do you? Chicken nuggets sound much better than a turkey sandwich. All right, think about what he said in the story. Let me show you the story in case you need to look back. Right here, asked means that someone said something. Tommy asked him if he wanted to trade lunches, and Seth said sure. So, one thing that he said was, do you want to trade lunches? Okay. All right. You just came up with the character's response. Not every one of our responses in our stories are going to have a do, think, feel, and say. But for this story, we got lucky and we had all of those different actions. Every one of those things, what the character does, what they think, what they feel, and what they say, they are all character response. All right, let's see. Let's go to our next story. So we're going to go to story number 2, and we're going to do the same exact thing for that. Ethan wanted to play on the computer at recess. His classroom was loud and crazy. He could not figure out how to get the computer to turn on. Since it was so loud, his teacher couldn't hear him. He didn't want someone to take the computer from him. Ethan asked his friend Nate to watch the computer for him while he asked his teacher for help. He promised he would let him play since he helped him out. All right, so let's go to, what did I just do? All right, let's go to our character response graphic organizer. So, what did the character do in the story? Let's look back. He wanted to play the computer, so he got his computer. He couldn't turn it on. He didn't want someone to take the computer from someone, so he asked his friend Nate to watch the computer, and then he asked his teacher for help. So, several different actions. So, one of the things he did was he asked his he didn't ask his computer because he couldn't turn it on. He asked his teacher for help, and he asked his friend to watch his computer. All right, what was he thinking in the story? Let's see if we have any thoughts. Look closely, see if you see any thoughts. He wanted to play on the computer at recess. Is that a thought? It's a think or a feel. Which one do you want to put it under? Let's put it under feel. Okay, because that's a feeling. When you want something, that's a feeling. It didn't really say he was thinking about it. See if you see any thoughts. He didn't want someone to take the computer from him. He was probably thinking about that, but it didn't really say that he was thinking that. So remember how I told you not every story is going to have each one of those responses? So in this one, there's not going to be a think. We're going to leave that one blank. Remember we said there was another feeling in there? He didn't want someone to take his computer. Okay? Now, what is a say in the story? Remember, asked means that someone says something, so that's a say. Ethan asked his friend Nate to watch the computer while he asked his teacher for help, and he promised he would let him play. A promise is also saying something, so we've got to put both of those. So he asked his friend to save his place, and he promised to let him play. All right, did he solve his problem? Sure did. He went and talked to his teacher. So his problem in the story was that he could not get the computer to work, and he worked through many different solutions in order to solve the problem. He tried turning it on himself. He couldn't get it to work. He asked his friend to save his place so that he wouldn't lose it, and then he went and asked his teacher. So he was able to solve his problem. All right, let me show you what you are going to do today. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. All right, today, friends, you are going to have a story that you are going to listen to, and you are going to be finding the events in the story that are a problem and how the character responds to the event. So remember, when they respond, you're looking for what they think, what they feel, what they do, and what they say. So it can be any of those four things, and it could possibly be all four of those things. So you're going to look for different events in the story, and you're going to complete this graphic organizer to show what the character's response to the event was. All right, friends, I will see you again tomorrow. I'll see you when I see you. Have a great day. Bye.